Hey everyone, Jonathan Bailor back with another epic session talking about the modern advancements we have in eating and exercise and how, just like we don't use the same phones we used 40 years ago, why practice the same eating and exercise guidelines that we were given 40 years ago? And when thinking about effective, modern ways to deal with a lot of these conditions, which are just impairing our ability to live our fullest and happiest lives, I can't think of anyone better to bring in than the wildly best-selling author of the 17-Day Diet, a great guy who cares deeply about people, and he'll get into some of the awesome community service efforts he's started and continues to run. He's a family practitioner. He's my friend, Dr. Mike Moreno. Welcome to the show, brother.
Thanks for having me as usual. I really appreciate it, and your passion and the introduction, and I know you share the same passion that I do, so it's always a pleasure to talk with you.
Well, Dr. Mike, the key reason I wanted to bring you on the show, there's a couple, but first and foremost is you continue, despite all the success you've had literarily and in the media, to see patients and spend time with people on the front lines, day in and day out. What is the biggest challenge you face in helping individuals to modify their eating and exercise habits?
I think the biggest challenge, and I think most people would agree, is that life seems to get in the way. I've always, I did take a few months off when I was working on some other projects, and I got to tell you, after 3-4 months, you miss that interaction. You miss going from room to room. It's like anything else. You can get sick of eating strawberry ice cream if you eat it every day, but after a while, if you avoid it and you're not doing it, when you go back to it, you realize there's this fondness that you have for it. And for me, it was seeing patients and that interaction, new patients and older patients. And again, it's a great job. It's a fun job, and I feel honored that you have a skill that not a lot of people have, and it's just a fun thing to do. But I'll going back to your question, I'll tell you the thing that really sticks out over and over is these barriers that exist day to day for people, and whether it's work or whether it's being a single parent or working 2 or 3 jobs or whatever it may be. It's the day to day challenges that plague everybody, and I think anybody out there watching or listening will agree that sometimes it can feel like this daunting task to be healthy. Yeah. And I think life gets in the way. So, there are so many new ideas and new philosophies and new things coming out. And I really try to steer my patients in the direction of show me what it is you can't do, and I'm going to tell you how you can do it.
Gotcha.
It's the what you can and how you can, not what you can't and what you didn't. And we need to give people some ideas and thoughts and help with creativity, because at the end of the day, that's where we're going to get to where we need to be.
It sounds like finding that prescription which is customized for each individual's lifestyle. And Dr. Mike, along those lines, it seems like what a lot of people are told is just the opposite of that. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that no human being can be happy and healthy long term if they're hungry.
Yeah, that's true. That's absolutely true. And it applies 100% to this particular situation.
So how do we, just like I wouldn't want to go to a physician and have them say, oh, well, just sleep less. Like that doesn't really help me. So what do you then tell your patients if it's not just, well, eat less of your existing diet?
Well, what it is, and we've learned this, and you know this as well as I do with all the great work you've done, it's not how much you eat, and this whole idea of food in and exercise out doesn't apply anymore. Mm-hmm. And I know people that eat minimal calories and work out just like crazy people. I don't know where they have the time to do it, because quite honestly, I don't, and I know you don't. And most people will say, oh, that's great that you have 3 hours of a window every day to go work out. It's crazy. I mean, it's nice, believe me, enjoy it if you have it, but that's not the general population. Yep. So I think the idea is that it's not necessarily just calories in, calories out. I think it's really realizing what you, and this is what I say when it comes to food, it's not just how much you eat. It really isn't. It's what you eat It's when you eat it and how much you eat of it. So it's the types of foods. It's when you're eating them, when you're integrating them into your day. Because let's face it, it's not about all protein and zero carbs or half and half or it's a balance, and that balance is going to be different for every individual out there based upon their lifestyle, based upon what they have to do day to day, based upon their body, based upon their genetic makeup. There are so many factors that contribute. Yes, we can generalize and say we want a certain amount of carbs, proteins, and fats, but that doesn't apply to everybody. So I think it's learning your body, understanding your metabolism, understanding how certain foods affect you. This is where food journaling is going to be a fantastic tool. So realizing that you are different, we are different. That yesterday I saw patients all day, and a gentleman asked me, "Well, I don't understand." And I know, Jonathan, you've heard this before. I have a friend of mine. She eats as much as I do, or twice as much, and she's thin as a rail, and she never does anything.
Yep.
It is what it is. And my mom used to always tell me when I was growing up, never mind, this is an old school proverb. I'm older than you, I know. So, but, she used to always say, never mind the Jones and the Smiths. You do what you're supposed to do. And the saying was, never mind your next door neighbors. Whatever they do, that's what they do. You do what you know you're supposed to do. And, diet applies that. It applies to that very much the same. So learn your body, understand how foods affect you, and realize that it's what how much you eat, yes, but what you eat, when you eat it. It's integrating the proper foods into your day. And then as far as the activity portion of it, it's becoming creative. We don't live in a world where you go to work from 9 to 5 and then you go to, now again, some of us may. I don't think this is most people. It's not me. It's not you. We don't live in this world where we just go to the gym and this amount of time is set aside for the gym, and that structure's gone. Life has become too complicated, too difficult, too overwhelming. We need to figure out how to become creative and integrate activity in our day. Life is going to quite often, and unfortunately, work against you. So you need to figure out a way to take those challenges and those tasks and those hurdles and make them work for you. And then once you figure that out, I think you can be ahead of the game quite easily and integrate your diet and exercise into your life.
Dr. Mike, as a practicing physician, you're up on things, you're progressive, you get it. But as you know, you're the minority. There's not a lot of people out there like you. So for the viewers who are watching this, who may go to their physician and their physician does not have this updated information and maybe wants to write them a prescription or just tell them to try harder, what should they do in those circumstances?
Well, I think what you'd want to do, first of all, just having a health maintenance assessment, understanding your medical issues, if there are any. Are you a diabetic? Do you have high blood pressure? Is your cholesterol an issue? Really getting sort of baseline labs and understanding what things sort of you're working against. And that's the first part. And then also realizing that you're capable of exercising and understanding that. But I think it's a matter of working with your physician. And I think this is where the old days of the family physician, really getting to know your doctor, become really important, because there are cultural diversities, there are sociological diversities, there are so many things that come into play. So I think it's understanding where you are from a baseline standpoint and what medical challenges or health risks you may face. And then I think it is really hammering down with your physician or healthcare provider, what is the appropriate calorie intake? Range. And I really want to stress that word range, because anybody that goes and says, you're supposed to eat 1,400 calories a day. Listen, there's nothing that is spot on. Everything these days is a range. If you look at any blood test, if you look at anything in life, everything is a range. So there's genetics and how your body works, processes foods. And two, the range is there because there are different heights, there are different lifestyles. Some people, unfortunately, work 18, 16, 14 hours a day, every day. I don't know how they do it, quite honestly, but it's understanding that you'd like to get a proper range of calories, but you really need to walk through your day with your provider. And oftentimes I tell my patients that, because we assume oftentimes that our days are similar to theirs.
Yep.
And they may not be. and it's quite enlightening. You talk to somebody and you say, take me through your day. And I will literally say that to them. Let's take 5 minutes, and I want you to tell me when you wake up in the morning, and I know there's some changes from day to day, but when you wake up and that alarm goes off, I want you to walk me through your day. Take me through every moment, from the time you shut that alarm off to the time you put your head back on the pillow and go to sleep that night. Walk me through it. And you find the little gives in that day, where you can squeeze a little bit of movement in. I can get a little 5 minutes here. I have people to the extent that I tell them, when you're brushing your teeth in the morning, don't do it in front of the sink. Walk around, get some active, listen, and it sounds so silly and so crazy, but you can burn more calories walking around brushing your teeth than you can standing in front of the mirror. So it's silly things like that, and it really invites you to find extra calories throughout the day. So I think that the short to your question is develop a relationship with your provider, get them to understand what it is your day entails, and then help them to become creative in integrating things. And, it's up to the patient themselves. I mean, it is a two-way street. We need to become accountable and creative as well. But it's learning the proper foods and integrating them properly, as we said at the top of the hour, and just knowing when to have them, how much to have them, and which ones to have. And I think it's not really a certain number of calories. I really don't think it is. You can have twice as many calories if they're the proper ratios and types of foods, if they're properly integrated into your day. And so there's a lot of give there. It's just understanding where it is and understanding how to achieve it. And then, of course, as you know, being active and creative. The days of, again, getting in your car and going to a gym and having 90 minutes to work out and then shower, quite honestly, those days are gone. They are for me. And you got to realize that it may just be 3 10-minute walks that you get in a single day. And yes, it still counts. So, be creative, understand your body, your health, how your body handles certain foods and activities, and use them in your favor.
Dr. Mike, with the constraints of modern life and this idea of, we'll just go for a 90-minute jog. Like, that's not only is that
it's not happening.
Not chronologically possible, but if I weigh 350 pounds, telling me to go jog on pavement is probably not the best suggestion.
It's harmful, right?
So what has been your experience with the seemingly very promising research about shorter but more intense forms of exercise? Have you seen personal or success in your practice with those, like more interval-based or resistance training-based exercise?
So it's a great question, and you're right. The idea of slapping on your sneakers and running for 90 minutes is gone. I think both from the time standpoint that none of us have anymore, and also from the fact that unfortunately our country is still at the top in terms of obesity. I will add this caveat, and it really excited me. About a month ago was the first time in decades that the childhood obesity rates have actually come down. And that's a very promising thing. I think all the hard work that people like you, Jonathan, and I, and so many other people are doing are starting to be reflected in our young population. So that's fantastic. But I think that the thing is this, and it goes back to what I said a few minutes ago, which is when you see someone who is really not capable of doing these things, and the new technology saying, smaller bursts of activity or energy throughout the day are helpful. I think there are a lot of reasons why, and I don't think it's fully understood. My impression is this: people are more inclined to do something that they are capable of doing. And I think most people would agree with that.
Yeah. And
when you come to somebody who can't even get out of a chair and walk 100 yards and tell them to go out and walk for 30 minutes, they're not going to do it. They may tell you they're going to do it. They're not going to do it. So again, it's understanding what people can do. And when you tell somebody to do something that and they've agreed that they can do, it's going to get done. So that's one part of it. It's giving people a task that they're capable of completing. The second thing is, I think when people start to do these things and they see that achievement level and they're able to realize that, I can do this. And again, it's like anything else. It's ramping up. Getting literally had problems just standing up from the chair. And she was an older woman. She was probably in her early to mid 80s. But again, age doesn't rule out the capability of still being healthy.
Mm-hmm.
So this woman had a difficulty just getting out of the chair. Now imagine for years and years and years going to the doctor and telling her she needs to go out and walk 30 minutes a day. This woman could barely stand out of the chair. But you talk to them and you make them realize that that's okay, but we need to make that go a little further. And right on the heels of what you were asking, it was a matter of bargaining this lady and saying, are you capable of getting out of the chair? And she said, yes. So I said, what I'd like you to do, start out, is 3 times a day, I'd like you to just stand up out of that chair for a couple of seconds and then sit down. And I want you to practice that 10 times, 3 times a day, much like anything else. And that slowly progressed to, with an assisted device, being able to walk 10 steps and 10 steps back. And little by little over time, here's a woman who could barely get out of a chair, and before you know it, she's going back and forth down the longest hallway in her home and back to the chair. The idea is that we have to slowly awaken our body in such a way to get it back going. We can't just jump into the fire.
Yeah,
it's very harmful, or may be harmful. It's very demotivating in the sense that you're giving people tasks that they're incapable of completing. And so I think it becomes a struggle, both mentally and physically. So it's marrying those two entities, the physicality of it, the fact that research is showing that it doesn't have to be this long, stretched out thing. It can be smaller sessions, and whether it's taking the stairs as opposed to an elevator one day, or whatever it may be, integrating short little areas of exercise in your day, in what you have to do anyway, is helpful. So I think it's twofold. I think it's really giving people tasks that are doable and seem achievable. And I also think it's giving people that joy of actually completing something and then wanting more of it. But the body responds better that way. And clearly what we're seeing is that people are responding better. I think we see less injuries. I think people are, again, more capable and more likely to continue to do it because it doesn't so much seem as another task. It just is sort of doing what you're normally going to do anyway, a little bit differently. So it's a lot easier to do, say, 6 5-minute episodes of something as opposed to a 30-minute episode of something. So I invite people to take a look at your day and find small amounts of time throughout that day and see if you can add it up to 30 minutes. And also be aware of tasks that you can eliminate. We get in the habit of doing things that at the end of the day we may not really need to be doing. Some things, you have to do, and I understand that, but there are certain things you say to yourself, maybe it's not about sitting down and typing up a 30-minute email. Maybe it's picking up the phone and having a 3-minute conversation. Whatever it is, try to find ways. And it's not, going down on technology, because I think technology can be useful, but I think it's just finding ways to integrate your lifestyle into some activity levels that you can benefit from at the end of the day.
Mike, when speaking about technology and modern advancements, when speaking with a physician about weight regulation, it's hard not to bring up weight-related surgeries. And I'm curious as to I certainly have an opinion, but I will hold my opinion. What is your
Perhaps
opinion?
I should hold mine as well.
What is your opinion on if they are helpful, if they are harmful? How do you react when patients bring this up?
It's a great question. It's a loaded question. I don't want to say it's never a justified thing, but I will say it's rarely a justified thing. I think that at the end of the day, it's a surgery, and a quite involved surgery. And yes, they've sort of whittled it down to less invasive, and they're doing all types of other procedures that weren't the traditional gastric bypass, and where actually the stomach would shrink to the size. They're doing sleeving and banding and things of this nature. And here's the bottom line. It's a surgery, and it's a surgery that carries with it most intraoperative and postoperative risks. And that meaning, not to get technical, but there are complications and risks that take place during the surgery and after the surgery. And when I say after, it's not just an hour after, it's a lifetime after. You're messing with the body's ability to reabsorb nutrients and vitamins. nearly all of these patients become vitamin B12 deficient. I could go on and on and on. The bottom line is this: I think that it's not the answer. I think it's rarely the answer. I think it's short term, and statistics show that most, and again, not all, but most people don't learn the proper strategies that they need and tools to keep that weight off. So I think it's risky. And I think it's when somebody would say they're willing to take a chance of bleedings, infections, or quite often, possibly death, having a surgery done, and then a lifetime of complications following, merely to lose weight, I think that's a pretty risky thing to do. And so, it's one of those things where I'm not a big believer. Now, that being said, are there times where it's the only option? I think there probably are. I think they're far and few, but they're out there. I think some people, and this is multifactorial, it truly is. It's physicality, it's really mentality, and I think that's a big part of it. But I think there are some people who are just at their wits' end, and I think that there is no way. And we're not talking 30, 40, 50 pounds overweight. We're talking in the hundreds of pounds. And I don't mean 100, I think even more. We're talking 400 or 500 pounds. We see them. They're there. Some of these people, when they can't get up, when they can't move, when they can't get to the point where getting out of a bed is an almost impossible task, I think you have to start looking at these people as giving them options.
Yep.
And I think that these people need help, but it's tough. It's going to be pretty rare that you're going to find me signing off on that one and saying this is a proper way to go. And then, to their defense, I have seen a few who have done it. And in fact, a very good friend of mine, I pleaded with him not to do it for several years, but he finally did it. And I just saw him on Saturday, a few days ago. He looked great, and you have to encourage these people. We're all in this game together. So I think letting them know, hey, I'm proud of you. And I told him, I said, I got to tell you, I'm shocked that you've kept this weight off, because it's been a few years now. I said, and you look good. And I said, don't slip. It's a slippery slope. And it's easy to fall back in those habits. So I think there's a tremendous mental mind component to being successful with these things. But it's going to be very, very few outliers out there that I think are justified in doing it.
Dr. Mike, you made a key distinction there. Let me know if I got this correct here. The surgeries can be helpful if they facilitate or help you make lifestyle change, not in place of lifestyle change. And the reason this matters is it seems if I'm eating a nutritionally deficient diet and you just shrink my stomach and now I eat even less of a nutritionally deficient diet, like that could be fatal. And what you need to do is to eat this higher quality food and have a healthier lifestyle. And in fact, if you're going to go so far as to change your body, it's even more important to do that now. It's not less important. It's even more important because you've got less room for error, because you can only eat N number of calories per day. So if you're doing this to avoid having to make lifestyle changes, is that backwards? And in fact, you should be doing it to facilitate lifestyle changes?
And then that's the whole point. Our medical group several years ago, it does have a bariatric surgery program, but the program itself consists of a 12-month intensive. And I think most groups are a tremendous mental component to this, and really, as you said, changing your lifestyle. So with these people, what they're doing is they give them achievable and healthy goal weight to meet after 3 and 6 months and 9 months and 12 months. Once they've gone through this program, and you have to lose a certain amount of weight in order for these people to have the ability to get the surgery. But what we're seeing is that about 30-40% of them don't want it and don't need it, because they realize they're not a lost cause. And so exactly as you said, it's not a reason or an excuse on how you can continue your current bad habits. It's really a door to open into proper and good habits, and both nutrition and activity. So Yeah, I feuded with this. I used to get so passionate and passionately against it.
Yeah.
But I realized there are a few out there that are just at their wits' end, and I don't know that there's any amount of therapy or dietary changes, where the body becomes so flaccid and just incapable, and it's so unfortunate. I think what we need to do is intervene. Guys like you and I, Jonathan, and so many other tens of thousands of people who are working on this. We need to intervene so that we're not getting people to this point anymore. We keep people from getting to that extreme. The likelihood of needing that surgery or even wanting that surgery for that matter is going to decline and maybe go away. I don't know. A good friend of mine does surgeries for medical school, so he always gives me a hard time about that. But we have friendly feuds regarding that. But I think, like I said, there are instances where it's an absolute must. But there's a tremendous amount of mental intensive that has to go prior to the surgery, during and post-operatively, because you can slip on these things very, very easily.
Dr. Mike, we've covered a lot about the body, physical things, physical interventions, surgical interventions, dietary interventions, movement-related interventions. But you and I know there's huge psychological components to all of this. What do you do with your patients to help there to get? So many of us might feel that we're just broken and we're not worth this on some level, or there's something else that's maybe we are practicing bad dietary habits, but we don't want to, but there's this stress that's causing us to self-medicate with food. What do you tell your patients in terms of the psychology of overweight?
I always speak to my patients in terms of those that struggle, what type of patient you're speaking of. You really have to get into their, and I mentioned this earlier, you have to get into their day. You have to kind of understand what their difficulties are, because people can always say, I work too much and, I have 3 kids. But what does that mean? What is too much, and when do you, so you really have to get into their day, but you have to make them realize that it's a very doable thing. I mean, when you look at people who are stricken with cancers, and not necessarily adults, I mean, kids, when you look at people who are stricken with illnesses that were just unfortunately a product of bad luck, I really use a lot of these people and a lot of these unfortunate cases to get other people to realize that, here's a person who doesn't have a choice. Here's a person who has a stage 4 cancer or whatever it may be. And get these people to realize that they have a choice. They've been given a life and they have a choice. And I think you need to be sensitive to what their needs are and not just say, well, everybody's busy and everybody has kids and everybody. You have to say, I understand that. And gosh, you hear some stories that, quite honestly, I walk out of the room thinking, my God, no wonder.
Yeah.
It's challenging the way people have to live and to provide for themselves and their family. So understanding what their day is and really having that empathy there and letting them know that, wow, that is difficult, but let's figure out a way in that lifestyle to make it work. And you have to start slowly. You can't expect them to extract large amounts of time from a day that is already seemingly too short. It's just a matter of trying to kind of pick and prod and fine tune. And I always tell my patients, unfortunately, it will seem that life is working against you all the time. And it will always seem like that. You need to make your life work for you. And when you're working long hours, you need to find a way to make something in that job work for you. And whether that's on a nutritional standpoint or a physical and exercise standpoint. All the time, I stress eat. That's one of the things I hear all the time. But there's nothing that says that you can't stress eat on healthier foods.
Yeah.
And there's no, I joke around with patients all the time and I say, I guarantee you, if you come to my house, I will cook you dinner and make you full. Getting full is what you want. There's nothing that says in the Bible or the doctrine of health that you have to stress eat on unhealthy food, and there's nothing that says that you can only get full and satiated on healthy food. It just doesn't work that way. So it's getting them to realize new foods. I think cooking is a great thing. It brings out a more creative sort of side to people, and it helps them experience and sort of develop and learn of new foods. But I think it's really getting these people to understand that you have to surround yourself. And honestly, some of us have more willpower than others. Some of us can walk away from it, and some of us can't. So I think, I think in our break room at the office, you walk in and inevitably there's not a bunch of fruits and vegetables and whole grains. There are going to be people that bring in and just drop this. It's like this boat of temptation, and you walk in there and you see some people eating healthy right next to this pile of donuts, and then you see other people come in and and it's really interesting to just watch human behavior. Spend 5 minutes, or everybody out there listening and watching, spend 5 minutes in the break room of your workplace, and you'll see some amazing interaction. But you'll see some people come in and it's almost as though they know that's there and they beeline right for it. So there are extremes and there are variations of willpower. You need to find out where you fit in that category. And if there are donuts or whatever it is in the back of your break room, don't go there.
Yeah.
Grab a healthy bag of, some grains or some snacks. It doesn't have to be grains, some snacks and a big glass of water. And rather than go sit in the break room for 10 minutes, go for a walk outside. Go for a walk through the hallways. Go chat with someone. Go say hi to someone. Tell someone good morning. Ask someone how their weekend was. Move. Stay active and get creative. But if the willpower isn't there, and that's okay, don't tempt yourself like that, and choose other options that you can benefit from.
Dr. Mike, there's a pattern I've been seeing in a lot of what you've described, and you used the word explicitly a moment ago, and I think it hits the nail on the head. You used the phrase, have an attitude of empathy. Yeah. And I think that is just so powerful, because just one other concrete example is, and I'm sure you're familiar with this, if an individual has an external stressor and they go on like an antidepressant medication. So one, the external stressor can often lead to poor lifestyle decisions. Then you go on an antidepressant, which also impacts your ability to detect hunger, energy levels, things like that. So we have this multifactorial, like if a person is, there can be any number of things going on in their life that is causing them to make bad lifestyle choices. So taking that look, it's not just go to the gym for 90 minutes. Like that's like if your favorite team loses the football game, you're just like, score more points. Well, of course they need to score more points, but like, why aren't they scoring more points?
Right.
So taking that deep examination, who else can we look to besides our family physician to help us take that deeper look and that attitude of empathy towards our own lives?
Well, I think it may very well be our friends and family, but honestly, it may be strangers. It may be people. It may just be getting out there in the world and looking at. I'll tell you, one of my favorite things, and I may have said this to you previously on the show when we've done it, but I love when I'm out walking or out exercising, and or even just out at the store or whatever, and you see someone who you can clearly see struggles with their weight, exercising, walking, moving. I just want to go up to these people and give them a hug. And I don't know them, and perhaps I probably shouldn't do that, and I haven't yet. But the point being that you just want to tell these people, way to go. You want to go there and pat them in the back and say, and you see people that are morbidly obese that are out there trying and have that attitude. And I hope anybody out there watching or listening right now, I hope if you're one of these individuals, you are patting yourself on the back.
Absolutely. Because
listen, you're getting it. You're understanding it. You're that person that we need to learn from. So I commend you. But I think we need to look anywhere we can to get that motivation. And it may not be a doctor, it may be a friend, it may be a relative, or it may be, as I just said, a total stranger. We need to look for examples of what we should be doing and really tap into what they're doing and how they're doing it, because it's difficult. And listen, I don't do everything right all the time. In fact, I'm far from it. And you just have to try as hard as you can and try to do it more often than not. So it's really looking to anybody you can and getting their energy and then using that energy to cross motivate and motivate that person. And we always say, grab a call, grab your neighbor, grab your pet, whatever it may be. But and they're out. I'm not one of the conspiracy theorists. I still believe in the humanity in this world, and I think everybody wants to see people succeed. And whether that's with your weight and your health, or financially, whatever it is, we're in this together. We're all on this planet together, and we have to reach and ask for help and give help when it's needed.
Dr. Mike, certainly you've committed your life to helping people. I know you have some exciting personal and professional things coming up next. What is next for you in this mission to help people live better?
Well, as you know, I'm out in San Diego, and I've been here for 14 years now, practicing. It's next for me is trying to work on our community here locally, really getting not just our medical group involved with our patients, but getting our medical group involved with anyone and everybody, whether they belong to our medical group or not, reaching out to the community. So many people are out there and capable of helping, and probably want to help and perhaps don't. So it's really sort of focusing energy on what I've done in writing. As you know, I think there's a new version of the 17-day diet that should be coming out in January. Exciting. I mean, there's some great testimonials that are really, really impress people. I mean, some of these people we've been talking about this in the last several minutes, some examples of that, concrete examples. So, it's really trying to do more of the same, and trying to sort of spread this wellness disease, trying to get people to realize that it can be a struggle, but there are a lot of people out there, a lot of resources, and a lot of people that want to help, and continuing to do what you're doing, Jonathan, which is spread the news that we're not done fighting this battle, and we haven't even begun. And I think there's good things to come for all of us. So reach a hand out, or walk over to somebody and take them for a walk and grab a glass of water and do something healthy, and realize that we need to spread that fever to everyone.
I love it. Dr. Mike, where can our viewers go to learn more about your new book and more about you as a physician and as a man?
So as always, the 17daydiet.com has a number of wealthy recipes, new information, a lot of great talking sort of community of people there. drmikediet.com is my website that I do, and I interact with a lot of the people on there as well. And there's some great stories, amazing photos of befores and afters. And Simon & Schuster has a great website as well to promote other books that will be coming out and give people information they may need about any and all things that may pertain to their health.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Mike, and all that you do, and the other 99.9% of your life that is dedicated towards making healthy as contagious as sickness can be.
I say that back to you as well. Thank you for everything you do, and I appreciate it, and we'll hopefully get to do this again soon.
I love it. I love it. Well, viewers, I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. Again, our guest today was the wonderful Dr. Mike Moreno of the 17-Day Diet. Check him out at his websites. And remember, this week and every week after, eat smarter, exercise smarter, and live better. Chat with you soon.